Hi, I'm Shannon from houseimprovements.com, and I'm back today with our 5th video on our Building a Shed series. And this video is going to deal with installing the roll-up door. So we've got it roughly laid out in the shed, just kind of making sure all our pieces are here and that everything is going to fit the way we had planned. Because of the tight quarters in the shed, I'm going to be doing this a little untraditionally, so that we can show you exactly what I'm doing. At some point we got to turn the door here and just show putting the bolting the track to the frame. But generally what you would do is get all your pieces inside the building, assemble it on the floor, just like we are here laying on the floor. And once the tracks are together and bolted to the door canister itself, then you can stand the whole thing up and bolt it to the inside of the jambs. Like I said, because of restriction on the amount of space we have here, we got to do it a little bit differently, but it all works just the same. So to start with, I'm going to just go inside, turn the door roll, which is what you can see there, that big white part. Just turn it slightly so that I can just demonstrate how to put the side rail on. At least I'll just show you one end anyways. So if you look here at the end of the door to start with, right here you can see the door is all coiled up around the canister. Right here is the bottom of the door. It's got a rubber seal on it. We just want to make sure when we got this laying on the floor and ready to put the brackets on, we've got that orientated the right way, so that when this stands up against the wall, the door is unrolling the right direction. Something else I want to show you right now, just because I don't think I'll be able to show it very well once we have things standing up, is on this one end we have a tensioner, which tensions a spring inside the canister that helps you roll the door up and down. Takes a little bit of the weight. Not that the door weighs much, but it just helps mechanically roll the door up for you. So we have to tension that once it's up there. So what'll happen is I'll assemble the rails onto these brackets, get everything stood up against the wall, mounted on the wall, and then before I undo the wrapping on the door, this is important, don't take this off. Before I undo this wrapping, I actually have to spin the door. I think on this one, I believe it was a revolution and a half to pre-tension the door itself. Then at that point, I can undo the wrapping, drop the door down, and do a test run on it to see if that's good. You can, after that point, you can actually physically adjust the tension itself, kind of a little bit like a garage door, if you've ever done a garage door. This little wheel here, you'd stick a rod in one of these holes just to take the tension down. You lift this up out of the way, and you could actually wind this end up if you needed a little more tension, or unwind it if you didn't need as much as it's preset with. So the revolution and a half that they suggest in the beginning is just to kind of pre-tension it, and you may have to adjust it from there to your liking. One thing I will say is these doors come with a pretty good set of instructions, and you will need them. There's some information here as far as the opening size and general directions are in here, and they are fairly easy to follow. This door comes with all the hardware you need to assemble it and stand it up, and as well as a latch and everything as well. So I'm just going to show you here, first of all, how to attach one of the top pieces of the rail. And this is the rail system here that the door slides down into. So I'm just going to lay that there and grab a couple of these bolts. So I just need to pull this up, and like I said before, we've got the door already sitting the right direction. So you can see that this, the top of this rail has the square holes here that the hex heads fit into, and they match up with the square holes on this bracket here. So this, just about don't have enough hands. I'm just going to stick one of these bolts through this direction here. So you want the head on the inside of the track. Line it up with the hole on the bracket. Just get your nut started there. Okay, and the same thing on the second hole. Like so. And they're a square-headed top on them, so you can push with your one hand and tighten it, and I don't have the right size socket. Okay, so I've got finally got the right size socket now, 7/16. Just going to give that a little tighten. I don't need to overdo it. So like I said, now I'm just going to spin things the right direction and get the second part of the rail attached. So they just have this joiner piece here and some screws that I put over here. There we go. So we'll get some of them out, and I'll just attach this joiner to one side first, just so it's holding well. So just kind of split the difference of the joiner for lengthwise. And they're using a self-tapping or self-drilling screw, so they've made it pretty easy to do. Just like that, and then I can slide the next piece in, butt them up tight together, and attach that side with the screws as well. See if I can stand this right up and get out of it up here. Okay, so that's one side all attached. I'm going to do the same thing over on the other side, and then we're pretty much ready to stand the door up and fasten it to the wall. Okay, so I've got the two side rails all attached here. Now I'm just going to basically stand the door up, pull it in, and get it against the wall so we can attach it. Much easier with two people, but doable by one if you have to. Okay, so I've got it standing up here against the inside of the jambs. We're just going to move the camera around so you can see what I'm actually doing. Okay, so we've stood the door up, as you've seen, and just put the top bolt in on each side just so it'll support itself. You can see I had marked a line at the distance that's recommended in the instructions, which is 1 inch wider than the actual roll of the door. And I marked a plumb line all the way down there on both sides, and that's the outside of this track. So all we need to do at this point is move the track over to that line all the way along and put in, looks like basically 3 more bolts, and that'll have it all held in place. Just getting things moved over there. And another one down at the bottom here. Okay, so that's one side. We'll go over to the other side and do the same thing. It is a slotted hole back on the back side, so if you don't get it quite 100%, as long as you're about in the center of the hole, you can adjust it after. Okay, one more down on the bottom on this side. Okay, just like that. So now there's a couple more bolts right up in the top, right in the end of the bracket that was attached to the door. So I'm going to stick a couple bolts up there on each end, and then that'll be all in place, and then we'll move on from here with pre-tensioning the door and you know, double checking that everything operates properly. So. Same thing on the other side. Okay, so we're good and secure there, and we're straight to the pencil lines that I'd marked on there. Now we need to preload the door, and that was the turn and rotation and half of the door, and we want to spin it in the direction that it would be turning when the door is coming down. So the door is just hanging there right now, and this, you probably can't see it. Here's the rubber that's the bottom of the door. Okay, so the door would be turning this way when it's going down. So there's one turn. And then there's our half revolution. I've just got to bring it down a little bit more to get the bottom of the door where I can get a hold of it to cut the wrapping off. So we've got to be careful not to scratch the door. There's a bit of a space right here. I think this is where I'm going to cut, so I'm not scratching anything. I'm going to hang onto the door fairly firmly because it's now got some tension on it from that from turning it. Okay. Just getting everything free and loose here. I'm just going to pull it down outside of those rails just to get this foam off of it. They sent along just for shipping. I'm just carefully sliding it up. Now we've got to get it just fed back into our, right in here into the guides on the actual tracks. There we go. Okay, so you can see how that just rolls nicely down inside of our tracks. This is just packing material as well. Extra bolts falling out. Must have been a bolt wrapped up inside of there. So you can see, obviously we're on the inside of the shed. You can see here's the center core of that roller, and the door is attached to it, obviously. They've got these foam, well, they aren't really foam, I guess it's kind of a felt on the back so that when the door rolls up, it isn't scratching the face of the outside as it goes around. So we just want to check, excuse me, just want to check our operation here. Make sure it operates nice and smooth. And it definitely seems to do that. Going up and down. And I would say our tension's just about right. You don't want it, if you let the door go, you don't want it so that it just takes off and rolls up on its own. But you want it so that you don't really have to put any effort into lifting it at all either. So basically it's sitting there. I'd say the tension on that is good just as it is. So now we need to put in these safety kind of stop pieces, and there's a slot on each rail. I don't think you're gonna, well, you might be able to see it here. We're basically if I can get it in there. Should fit right in that. Although it's not running too badly. Let's just see this other side. Well, I'm going to refer to the instructions, but that should slide right back in there, but I'm just going to have a quick look here. Yeah, according to the instructions, that should fit through that hole and stick out the other side where we can put this bolt through. Well, we might have to just give it a little persuasion, see what happens. It's going. To start in there. Does this end fit through that one? Boy, they sure didn't cut any more than enough room on this door. It will go, I'm just going to have to get it lined up just right. Okay, so you can see how that went through. There's a slot on both sides, and on this edge there's the hole in that end of that bar that I just insert one bolt through just to keep it from falling out. Like that. And what that bar does, I'm going to put one up on the other side too, but what that bar does is when the door gets so high, it actually hits that bar and can't just roll right up back into the whole roll there. So, okay, so I'll do the same thing on the other side, and then when we come back, I'll show putting on the handle on the outside and any final adjustments that we might have to do. Okay, so we put the second stop bar up on the door there. One thing I forgot to do was add this clip here. Those bars, when this rolls up, those bars do hit this bottom angle, but if it was twisted or whatever, it could go past there. So they include these extra brackets that just go right here. And it just sticks out a little further, has a bit of a lip on it to catch that stopping bar there just a little more firmly and more positively. So you just remove that existing screw, tighten it up. There's one for both sides. So I thought I'd better just show putting that in there because I'd forgotten about it. This foam is kind of felt's in the way there. Throw this on there and then we'll do the handle. Okay, just like so. Now the handle, and I'll show you this once I'm outside again, but there's basically a handle that goes on the outside of the door. So we'll just insert it into place here. Get it tacked on. And they send you all this, all the hardware obviously comes with it. Everything's been pre-drilled, so that you just basically have to find the right holes, right hardware, and put them on. Just making sure it's straight on the outside. Tighten it up, just like so. Now they also have a short piece of rope here, and this is just so that when the door is all the way up, kids or anybody shorter can still get a hold of it to pull the door down. So we're just going to put it through there, through one of the holes that are right in this. Tie a couple knots in it so it can't pull through. And you can adjust it to whatever length you want, or put a loop in the end if that's what you want, but it's just so you can have something extra to get a hold of when the door is all the way up. So you can see there, door's all the way up. If I'm on the outside, I can get a hold of that rope or the handle and pull it down. So we'll maybe pop around to the outside and do a wrap up. So there's our roll-up door, all installed. You can see they operate very nicely. And they also come with a locking mechanism on the outside. So once you slide this over, you can actually put a padlock right through there. So they work very well. Secure, keeps out some rodents, all that kind of stuff, and it looks good too. So that wraps up that video on installing a roll-up door. We're actually going to add one more video to this series just as a final wrap-up. Once I have the whole shed sided and finished off completely, we'll come back with one more video, show you how it all turned out, and go from there. So if you want, you can go to our forum, check it out, make any comments you want there, ask questions on this project if you'd like, or anything else. And as always, keep watching.